video is in response to a bunch of requests I've had to talk about some of my guitar work with the band Shpongle. So I figured there's only one place to start, and that's with the first tune I ever recorded with Shpongle, which is Dorset Perception. So first things first, this guitar. I've dug out the actual guitar I used for this track. It's an battered old Takamine, blew the dust off, and this, to be honest, is featured on most of the Shpongle tracks that I've played on. Most of the nylon string guitar stuff was done on this guitar. I mean, I've got better nylon string guitars now, but this one has a sort of special place in Shpongle history, I suppose, so it feels appropriate, and it has a certain vibe, certain sound to it, which seems to work well in the music. So right up until Celestial Intoxication on the last album, I think there was a trading solo thing on there, and one of the solos was played on this one, and the other solo I did on a different nylon string. So yeah, this is the actual guitar. So I was doing a musical project with Craig Charles back, this would have been 20 odd years ago, and I was a cellist in that band called Harry Escott, and Harry was also working with Simon Posford on something, and Simon had invited him to come and play on some Shpongle stuff. They were looking for a guitar player, and so Harry recommended me. So they called me up and asked me if I'd like to come down and play on something. Simon at the time was living in a farm cottage, which was sort of out in the wilds near a place called Chalderton Rare Breeds Farm. It's funny the things that you remember. So it was out in the middle of nowhere. I turned up with a load of equipment, not really knowing what they wanted. Lots of electric guitar gear, but they weren't really interested in that. They were just interested in nylon string stuff. So they stuck me in a little hallway, which was running alongside the room that they were using for the studio at the time, which was really Simon's, I guess you'd call it his lounge in that house. A huge desk in there, a huge mixing desk. So they shut the door, stuck me in this little stone corridor with a mic, and they basically played me the track, and the track as it existed then was really just a bass line going between E and F. It was something along the lines of and a fairly basic drum groove, and that was it. So they just invited me to try some stuff out. So I had to play around, tried some different ideas out, and settled on this kind of little flamenco-y sounding riff, Spanish-y riff, which they quite liked. And that's what ended up being the main riff for Dorset Perception. So the tune itself, I mean, as I say, it was just over a bass line to E and F, and so we weren't sure whether to make it a major or a minor thing. So we tried some different variations. But the one we settled on, it was based around this E major triad. This is the first inversion triad. It's up here with the G sharp, 6th fret on the D string, then the B on the 4th fret on the G string, the E note on the 5th fret on the B string, and then finally the open top E string. And that's what the riff is based around, that shape. And incidentally, I'm using the pick for the bottom 2 notes, so the D and the G strings, and the other 2 notes are with my fingers. And the pattern I'm playing is basically going from the 4th string to the 2nd string, to the 3rd string, to the top string. And this open E string is one of the features of this particular riff, because that continues throughout as the chords change. And then all that happens is we move this shape up a half step to F, play the same thing again, same pattern again, but then coming back to finish on the F note. Then back again to the E, then down to a D minor first inversion triad. So here we've got 3rd fret on the D string, the note F, we've got the note A on the 2nd fret on the G string, we've got a D here on the 3rd fret on the B string, and again the open E string. So that same pattern as we played with the F. And so you're left with this. Just playing this again, it reminds me of the first time we ever played this live. It was the first live gig I ever did with Shpongle. It was, I guess, the first ever Shpongle live band gig. And it was a festival at Mount Fuji in Japan. We'd gone out there for about 10 days and we had a bunch of rehearsal, several days rehearsal in a rehearsal studio near Mount Fuji. And when it came to the gig itself, when this was towards the end of the first set, we played Dorset Perception. And the album Tales of the Inexpressible had been out for a little while by then. And I got to this tune, got the click in, I started playing the riff. And there was suddenly thousands of people just erupted in sort of cheers. And it really sort of floored me. I was quite taken aback. I sort of kind of knocked backwards and almost stopped playing from the shock of it. And ever since then, I mean, every time we play it live, it gets such a great reaction. It's a real adrenaline kick. It's a really fun tune to play. It's nice, me and Simon are both playing the guitar parts together. Sometimes back to back, usually bopping around. We're usually cueing each other when we're supposed to come in, when we're not supposed to come in, and quite often sort of like, is it here? Is it here? So I was like, I'm not sure, maybe, kind of thing. But yeah, it's always real kick to play live. It's great. It's such a popular tune. And yeah, it's a lovely feeling to have such a positive response to, something you've come up with. So that's the basic riff, but there's also two other parts to this because there's harmonies which come in. Now, when we play it live, I start it on my own. I'll play the riff twice on my own, and then Simon will come in playing the same riff, and I'll move into a harmony part, and then we'll continue with that as the tune goes on. But on the original version, the harmony part comes in at the same time as the initial riff, and it basically, most of it is just doubling the riff. So all of that's the same, but then when it gets to the D minor chord, we actually play this idea. And what this is a second inversion D minor triad. So instead of the first inversion here, we move up to here for a second inversion. So we've got A here on the 7th fret of the D string, D on the 7th fret of the G string, F on the 6th fret on the B string, playing the same pattern. But rather than the A at the top, we actually stick a G sharp on the top. Which is a nice kind of Phrygian dominant sort of sound. Spanishy sound. It's that kind of sound world it's coming from. And it's one of the features of the harmony of this song is that kind of Phrygian dominant thing which you get going on with it. So yeah, that's the second harmony part. And then there's a third harmony part which comes in the third time through the riff, which is a higher harmony again. And for this, we're E major triad up here on the 7th fret. So you've got B here on the 9th fret on the D string, E on the G string, 9th fret, G sharp on the B string, 9th fret, and then the B again on the top string, top E string on the 7th fret. That same pattern. And then for the F chord, we just move it all up a half step, but keep the B at the top the same. It's always a bit of a challenge just to not pull the chord out of tune, particularly when we're playing it live. And that just repeats those two chords, giving the harmony there. And it's a nice sort of effect because, as I say, the second part is just doubling the first part for most of it. So you get this second harmony, where you get this harmony in for all of it, but then when it goes to the D minor chord, it becomes a three-part harmony. So it really jumps out on that final chord each time. As I say, when we play this live, I'll start it off, Simon will come in and play the main riff, and I'll initially play that second harmony and then move to the third harmony, and then I kind of stick on that third harmony for most of the tune as we're playing that kind of section. Now there's a second section later on in the tune when the vocals come in, where it switches to a minor version of this riff. There's a nice kind of cello-led section. It's kind of... two tracks of cello doing this nice interlocking figure. So there's a cut-up vocal which comes in after that kind of E minor section. And after 8 bars, the guitar joins it and it plays sort of a minor version of the riff. It plays this. So instead of the G sharp, it's actually playing the open E string, bottom E string. Now, I have to confess that when we play this live, I'd play this with a G note in there as a minor. Simon and Raj very kindly sent me over the original tracks to do this with. And listening closely, I realised actually it doesn't play the G at all, it just plays the open E. So I discovered to my horror that we've been playing it wrong live all these years. Don't tell Simon and Raj. I suspect we did it like that because probably we weren't sure that we were going to make it a major or a minor thing. So we were giving ourselves the option. If we don't play any third on there, we don't play a G sharp or a G natural. It can work for either minor or major. And in this instance, it's been used for a minor section of the tune. That's certainly one of the interesting things with doing Shpongle stuff. You know, I'd plan a track. I mean, generally, I'll either record them at Simon's studio or here at home and send them things. And I'll often do tons of things, you know, tons of ideas. And Simon will have like 30 tracks of guitar to sift through and decide what he likes and what he doesn't like and what works for the track. And you never quite know what it's going to sound like when it comes back because other people will come in and put their parts on and take the tune in different directions. So things, you know, we spent a lot of time on which sounded great at the time then don't necessarily fit with the way the track has gone. So it's always fascinating. And also it's usually, you know, like 6 or 9 months later that I hear the finished product. So often you've completely forgotten what you played the first time. So this is an example of that. Always when we play live, I have to go back and listen to the tracks and try and figure out what I played on the sessions because, you know, there's so many things to pick from. And for this minor section, as I mentioned, there's 8 bars of kind of cut up vocals and then the guitar comes in. And then the third and fourth times through that, so after the first 16 bars, a harmony guitar comes in. And for that, we're doing kind of a minor version of the second harmony. So for this, we've got an E minor tried up here. Then to that F. And then for the D minor, we go down to here. But rather than having the A on top, actually put the G on top. So you get that note, a minor third up from the open E. So you get this nice little idea. It's a little bit stretchy. And this also goes on underneath the guitar solo, so the guitar solo is over. And I'll look at the guitar solo and talk in depth about that in the next video. Just to mention, if you'd like to see a transcription of this or any of my other lines, you'll find a link in the description down below. So I hope you've enjoyed me reminiscing about how we came up with the riff to Dorset Perception and looking at how to play it. As I mentioned, we'll be looking at the solo in depth in the next video, so I hope you'll join me then. But let's finish up by putting all of this together with the backing track. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.